Professor Robinson, I have another question I'd like to ask. Luther also mentions purgatory in the 95 Theses. I know what Catholics believe about purgatory, but to me it still seems like a strange doctrine. How did this belief arise, and how is it related to indulgences?
That's a good question, and I guess my answer would be it's one of those kind of common sense things that people make up. Meaning this, the history of purgatory is really the history of people coming to grips with the fact that God is both just and merciful. The assumption is God in His justice has to punish sinners. But God's also merciful, so He gives them a chance to do that. Purgatory is really a place in the afterlife where God gives people a second chance to do what needs to be done to get into heaven. Now, the idea, of course, is based on doing what needs to be done in order to get into heaven. And that is the problem that Luther will eventually have with this doctrine. But this was very commonly believed in the Middle Ages. And people constantly talked about purgatory. They feared purgatory. And had heard a lot of stories about people who went to purgatory, what it was like. If you think, for example, of Dante's Divine Comedy, it's in 3 parts. He has the Inferno, he has purgatory, and he has heaven. That's the way people thought of the afterlife in the Middle Ages. Now, how is purgatory related to indulgences? Well, the indulgences take care of the penalties imposed in confession, as we already stated. People believed it was those penalties that they didn't do while on earth that they would have to do while in purgatory. So if during your life you're assigned a certain number of penalties in confession and you're not able to finish them all, you will be finishing them in purgatory. So the idea was if you bought an indulgence, you at least began to start over from that point in terms of your penalties and the time you would have to spend in purgatory. So you begin to see how indulgences really touch on a lot of different aspects of what Christians believed in the late Middle Ages, and how they got Luther to the very heart of the matter that had concerned him, namely, how is it that God saves people? Is it by our work, or is it by His divine grace?